Hello, hello, hello. Today we are going to have an amazing episode 16. What good are our emotions? What are your emotions for? Why do we have emotions? We all have emotions. Our great feeling emotions when we're flying high feels like happiness and joy and bliss and inner peace. And when we're more resistant, feelings and emotions that don't feel good, anger and sadness and grief, disgust, frustration. We can go on and on and on. There's so much resistance to emotions. But the biggest way to shift in anything in life is when you recognize why. Why? Why do I have emotions? What are my emotions good for? Why do they exist? And once we know why, we can use them in the most empowering way. So that's what we're going to do today. Let's go. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Mattain, Attain the life you desire. Today's podcast is episode 16. I am Manal, your host, and I'm so excited to talk again about emotions. If you follow me regularly, you know that emotions are the key to everything. And today, although we recovered emotions 2 weeks ago, understanding your emotions, today I wanted to go deeper because on a recent live, I asked the question, why do we have emotions? And most participants were thoughtful, perhaps stumped, curious, and resistance. Like, why? Why do I wake up feeling bad? Why do I go through the day not feeling well? So today we are going to discover why. So we can move from being disempowered by our emotions to empowered by our emotions. 2 weeks ago, we talked about understanding your emotions. Last week, we talked about using anger to your advantage. Next week, we'll go on and we'll talk about loneliness and sadness, and we'll end the month with manifestation. This month of emotions follows a month of everything physical. So I hope you're enjoying this journey. Leave comments and let me know what you are thinking. So before we get started, I just want to remind you that emotions, one of the emotions that many of us call emotion, but it's not quite an emotion, is anxiety. Anxiety is actually when we repress the primary emotion of fear. When we repress our fear, when we refuse to acknowledge our fear, when we do not want to see our fear, it becomes anxiety. And anxiety is an expression of all four of the bodies, where physically you'll feel uncomfortable. It could be tension. There could be a lot of different things that you might feel, heart palpitations. You could just feel a lot of things in your physical body. Emotionally, you're suppressing fear. Mentally, you might have these thoughts that are really negative. And in your egoic body, you just feel like life is hopeless and things are miserable. So if you feel anxiety, go to my website, www.mattain.me/anxiety, and sign up for my mini course, 10 Steps to Letting Go of Anxiety. That's a fantastic mini course to explore anxiety and allow you to release. Fantastic. So let's talk about, why do we have emotions? What are emotions for anyway? Why do we really need to have them? I asked that during a recent live, and I was met with, a lot of pause, more quiet than I'm used to. And then someone suggested to be empathetic. I said, well, empathy is just feeling what another person feels. So empathy is a fantastic human quality. And sometimes I talk about empathy versus sympathy versus compassion. And we can talk about that. But really, at the end of the day, the most empowering emotion is compassion, which is having love for somebody. Empathy is feeling what somebody else is feeling. And sympathy is feeling sorry for somebody else. So you're going up the vibrational levels. So sympathy is at the lowest, feel sorry for you. Empathy is I feel what you feel anger, I feel anger. You feel sadness, I feel sadness. You feel frustration, I feel frustration. You're not amplifying a person's vibrational story or journey or feeling. You're meeting them. With sympathy, you're bringing it down. I feel sorry for you, which is very disempowering. With empathy, I'm meeting you where you are. With compassion, you're giving somebody love. So they feel sadness, you feel love. They feel frustration, you feel love. So it's empowering for the person that's experiencing a low vibration feeling. So I'm going to say that again quickly. Sympathy, somebody feels anger, you feel sorry for them. So it's actually a lower vibration. You bring them down. Anger, empathy, somebody feels sadness and you feel sadness with them. You're meeting them where they are. And compassion, somebody feels sadness and you feel love for them. So you're raising their vibrational story. So somebody suggested that we have emotion so we could feel empathetic. But I said, well, okay, empathetic, we're feeling the same feeling that somebody else is having. Why are they feeling feelings in the first place? Somebody suggested maybe we feel because it empowers us. And they brought up the example of anger. And yes, there's so many places and so many stories where somebody has felt a strong emotion and they have overcome human abilities. So somebody's child might be in danger and they've lifted cars or they've fought off animals. And there's just different things that you could see so many stories if you cruise the internet or social media of people overcoming physical limitations because a strong sense of fear or anger, just some strong, so there's a power. That doesn't give us why, that's just gives us an examples of powerful emotional reactions. So the next answer that I got about why was about vibration, that it was a vibration. And this vibration, your emotional vibration, is a connection to something bigger. So let me back up a bit. And if you see ourselves as a physical being, so our physical being, our human, and we're connected to something bigger, and you can use that to be God, universe, spirit, some sort of bigger story, vibrational story, something bigger, what the meaning of life is. Our emotions become a processor for connecting our physical being, Manal, with the bigger meaning of life. And when we connect with this bigger meaning of life, this is where we can connect with peace and clarity and a deeper understanding of self and life. So our emotions are a processor. Our emotions are a processor that allows us to take the higher meaning, universe, God sense, vibration, energy, and physically translate it into our physical experience. So I'm going to give an example that we talked about during our life. There's a game called Hot and Cold. Many of you, I'm sure, have played it. Played it a lot. I haven't played it in a long time because there's not some young ones in my life right now. But Hot and Cold. Hot and Cold is a game where you hide something and then somebody else tries to locate what you hid. When they get closer, you say warm, 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 and then closer get hot, hot, hot. And when they get further away, you start to say warm, 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 and then cold, cold, cold. And so hot, warm, and cold are indications to guide that other person to discovering where you hid that toy, that object, that thing. So hot, warm, cold, warm, hot. Just feedback systems in the game that you're playing to allow you to discover how close or how far you are from a desired object. So let's take that analogy to our emotions. Hot, warm, cold, cold, warm, hot. How about if our emotions are the vibrational story, the processor, the feedback system to allow us to know how close we are to our desires? Hot, hot, hot. Happiness and glee and joy and peace. We are close to what we want out of life, what we desire. Oh my God, I feel great. I'm connected with people that I love. I'm laughing. I'm in an environment that brings me pleasure. I'm doing the things that I love. Life is fantastic and I feel great. Oh, I'm neutral. I'm doing something that doesn't really bring me pleasure, but I just have to do it, but I'm okay. And that's where I am at warm, neutral. angry or sad or grief, I'm really disconnected from things that bring me desire. So we can use our emotions as a feedback system to how we are aligned or not aligned with our desires. Our emotions guide us to understanding what it is that we want out of life. When we are feeling particularly resistant, we are not aligned with what we want. So stop and let's think. Think of an example of a strong, low, resistant emotion that you may have experienced lately. Stop and feel anger or sadness or grief. And then think about what the thoughts that you had or what the situation was, the external situation that you had. It likely matches something that's undesired. Hot, warm, cold. You were in cold there. So how do we move towards warm and cold? Those are a lot of tools that we talk about in Mattain, and talk about how do we turn around and change our focus to move from cold to warm to hot. But today it's all about understanding the power of our emotions. So once we understand why we use it, the example I gave is we use it and it becomes that Lamborghini or that Porsche or a Tesla rather than the Pinto that most of us are using. Most of us are not using our emotions. How are most of us treating our emotions, including me? I use my emotions like this a lot. Resistant. Many of us, it's not our emotions that are hurting. It's not the anger, the sadness, the grief, the frustration that's hurting. It's the resistance that we have to these emotions. It's that we think that they're bad, that we think that we're broken, we think that we're doing something wrong, that we're a failure, we're not good enough, we're unworthy, that we're under control, that we're not free, we're unhappy. It's the resistance, and this is what I call resistance on resistance on resistance on resistance. What I find that most people, it's not the emotion, the core emotion that's bringing them down. It's the overlapping emotion that indicates that there's something wrong with you feeling that way in the first place. The judgment of it being bad, you being a failure, not being a success, not being good enough, not getting life right. For me, some of my stories are being stupid, so stupid. No, we are emotional beings. We are physical beings with an emotional body that allows us to connect with our greatest desires through emotions on a vibrational scale from hot to cold that allow us to guide us back to our greatest desires. And once you know that our emotions are a tool, then we start to say, how am I using my tool? Do I recognize my emotions are a tool? Or am I resistant to my emotions and hate that they exist, and hate that I'm angry, and hate that I'm sad, and hate that I'm frustrated? Which is hate is that resistance on resistance. Am I judging myself for being sad or angry or frustrated or grieving? And it's the ability, the mindset to recognize the empowering nature of the tool that you have in your emotional body that will allow you to propel yourself in the direction of all things desired. Our emotions are absolutely powerful. Our emotions liberate us towards all things desired. Our emotions guide us towards the unconditional three, our unconditional worthiness, freedom, and happiness, love, bliss, joy, when we use them as a tool. In episode 14, I discussed how we do pains. We project, we amplify, we intellectualize, we negate, and we suppress our emotions. These are all ways that we resist. We project. We say, oh, our anger is he made me feel that way rather than I feel that way. She made me feel that way rather, that this is directing me towards a greater desire. We take something small and we make it bigger. And why do we amplify that emotion? Because we've ignored it. And one day it becomes the straw that breaks the camel's back, and we amplify our anger over something that happened very small in maybe a grocery store, in traffic, at the park, with something random. We amplify it because we haven't acknowledged how we felt in the past. We intellectualize it. I shouldn't feel this way. This is a first world problems. I'm really lucky. I should be appreciative. And we intellectualize rather than recognize that there is an emotion that we're feeling. We negate it. And negate it is like, I don't feel that way. And which is just neutralizing it, which is very close to suppressing it. We just make it smaller. Pains. These are all ways that we resist your emotions. So what am I suggesting that we do with our emotions? Once we accept that our emotions are a powerful tool, it is a processor to guide us from what is unwanted to what is wanted. It is no different than the game of hot and cold, happy and miserable. It allows us to move in the direction of what is desired. So once we recognize, it's a tool, then now we become aware of our emotions. I feel angry. Interesting, the physical manifestations that I feel. My fists are tight, and look at how it manifests in your physical body. So interesting that it has tinges of other emotions. Look at how that anger also feels like frustration, and maybe has a tinge of sadness to it. Maybe I'm covering up sadness. You just become aware of your emotional being and the physical manifestations. Then you jump into your mental body and you look at the thoughts. That's interesting. These are the thought about me being a victim too. There's a judgment of. This is interesting that this feels like this person did something to me, and it reminds me of an episode that happened last week. Last month, last year, last decade. So interesting, the relationship between my thoughts and my emotions and my physical manifestations. Interesting about the beliefs. Wow, I feel like I'm hopeless. I feel like I'm not free. I feel unworthy. I feel so unhappy that I will never find happiness and I'll never find love. We start to look and become aware and become curious, not judgmental, not I should not be feeling this way, not why am I feeling this way, why I'm scared and judgmental that I'm feeling this way, but curious and open and aware and allowing and flowing. Recognizing that it's a tool and that we're going to start to use the tool to discover what is unwanted so I can move towards what is wanted. Allow ourselves to discover where that object is hidden. And that object is ultimately going to be the unconditional three. Unconditional worthiness and freedom and love and happiness. It becomes so liberating when we start to recognize how powerful the emotional body is and how connected the emotional body is to the physical body and the mental body and the egoic body, and then recognize the power of allowing that emotional body to be the command center to understand physical manifestations and mental thoughts and beliefs, and start to use them together to orient you in the direction of all things discovered. Everything I teach is about understanding your emotions, becoming empowered in your thoughts and beliefs, and living the life that you desire, attain the life that you desire. This is done through a strong understanding, respect, and care for your emotional body. When you understand the why your emotional body exists, you become empowered to use your emotional body to guide you to all things desired. And that is really powerful. I hope that you enjoyed today's exploration. I hope that you have gained greater love and respect and care for your emotions and your emotional body. Next week, we are going to continue uncovering one of the most common feelings that I've been hearing a lot about, which is feelings of loneliness and sadness, and discovering what that's orienting you towards. It's going to be fun, empowering, and it's going to feel good, because that's what my intention is. So thank you so much for being here. I hope you enjoyed this episode. As I indicated, anxiety is a fear that's unacknowledged. And once you acknowledge the power of anxiety and that you've turned off a lot of your feedback systems and how to turn them back on, you start to become empowered. Go to my website, www.mattain.me/anxiety, and explore my Letting Go of Anxiety mini course so you can be empowered to let go of anxiety in the most powerful way. Thank you so much for being here. I so appreciate. Hope to see you next week where we talk about loneliness and sadness. And follow me. Follow me here on YouTube if this is where you're watching it. Follow me on any of these podcasts. Follow me on Instagram. Come find me on Insight Timer. Join a live. The lives are so powerful. Some of my podcasts come out from what we discover in the live, but the live is just such a powerful movement of energy as we collectively move to understand our human journey in such a common, connected way. Thank you so much for being here. Leave a comment. Love you so much. My love, always.